welcome. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. John, if you wouldn't mind kind of telling our listeners who you are and a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, I'm John Larkin. I'm from Dublin, Ireland, and I'm the founder of a soap and natural deodorant company called The Black Stuff.
Awesome. So, what inspired you? What is the black stuff? I guess for starters.
Yeah. So The Black Stuff is slang in Ireland for a pint of Guinness. That's at its essence. If you walk into any pub in Dublin or in Ireland and you said, I'll have a pint of the black stuff, they will pour you a pint of Guinness. Except if you're in Cork, they will probably pour you a pint of Murphy's, which is their version out of spite. But yeah, it's generally slang for a pint of Guinness over here. And yeah, one of the products that inspired the business was a soap made out of Guinness, and that was the moment where I thought, oh, well, actually, maybe this could be a business, and it was made from Guinness, and I thought, oh, I wonder, could I call it the black stuff? And yeah, so ended up calling it the black
Was
stuff.
was that your first product that you made?
It was the first product I ever used that I'd made that I thought, wow, this is actually nice.
Yeah, okay.
I made plenty that were not so good, and it was a lot of self-learning. And the first soap I ever made, I in fact cut myself on the stomach. I had decided, I'll use sand from the local beach and seawater from the Irish Sea, and this is going to be fantastic. And I made the soap, and it smelled good, but turned out the sand from the local beach mainly crushed glass and crushed seashells. So lesson learned there. Yeah, we don't do that.
I think I saw the ad on, maybe it was Facebook, and it was just, I don't know if it was your body just like shredded. But you know what, those ads are nice because I like the transparency of the whole journey in that 2 minute little segment.
Yeah.
So you started, did you say during the pandemic? Was that kind of when?
Yeah, so I've kind of been a bit of a serial entrepreneur my entire adult life. I've never really had a proper job. I've done all sorts of stuff, right? But come the end of 2020, I had another online. I've been in e-commerce for like 10 years, let's say, and I had another e-commerce business that was proving not to be as successful as I would have hoped, and I was winding it down, and I was looking for something else, and I came across a book down here in this area. I had this. There's actually there. It's actually right there. There's this A4 pad that I was sketching notes at one point, and I was looking through that again because I was trying to brainstorm next idea, and I came across a list of products that I had previously researched and I thought would be good to sell online, and men's soap was one of those products. And so I'd gone through this whole period of research maybe 5 years earlier. So like maybe 2015, 2016, where I went to China looking for products. And like there was a long period where I was researching products. And I'd identified handmade men's soap as a really good opportunity. And from a business perspective, it's small, it's easy to ship, it's consumable. So if it's a good product, people come back and buy again. It comes in lots of different varieties, and it leads into lots of complementary products. So like we sell natural deodorant and soon to sell cologne. So it leads into other products. And so it was a good opportunity. So I had kind of found that again. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll do that. And I started going down the same rabbit hole that I'd done before, was overthinking it and overanalyzing and researching. And then I just said, you know what, stop. I'm going to actually just take action. And this is like January 2021. So I spent that day just trying to find manufacturers, because obviously I don't know how to make soap. Like I didn't even use soap, to be honest. I used like whatever shower gel my wife's family gave me at Christmas. And so I was like, I'll find some manufacturers and get some samples, and then I'll figure it out, right? So I started researching and I found a few different ones, a couple in the States that some of our competitors use, and I found one in Turkey, and I bought samples from them all. But a few days passed then, right, and nothing happened. So I contact them again and go, what's the story, when he's shipping? And they're like, well, it's COVID, it's complicated, there's delays. And so it turned out nothing was shipping for ages, right? Everything was backed up. So then I went back to square one where I'm like, okay, I wanted to take action, but there's nothing I can do. So I started doing a bit more research, and I came across this video on YouTube of, I can't remember who it was by, but it was teaching you how to make soap. And I watched it, and it was like, that looks kind of interesting. Maybe I would learn more about the product if I just made some. Discover like how the ingredients work and, what the scents were like and things like that. So I bought a whole load of ingredients on Amazon. And 4 years later, my home office still looks like madness. But anyway, so ingredients arrived and, I made soap 2 days later in my house. And it was below average, but it was a learning experience. So that's how it started. And then my wife would say I'm OCD, and I would probably agree. Like, I'm either all in on something or I'm not in at all. And like, I played poker for a living at one point. Like, I was all in a lot.
Oh, wow.
So when I commit to things, I'm like 100% in. And so very quickly, I started ordering more and more ingredients, and I was ordering all sorts of essential oils and fragrance oils back then, and scents and different ingredients, and just like went from making like 9 bars of soap that first day to like making that 5 times in a day, because I wasn't doing anything else, right? It was in my house, and the kids were at home. They weren't allowed to go to school. In that period, we weren't even allowed to go. Ireland had a really stupid lockdown. We weren't allowed to go for more than 5 kilometers of a journey. And you're only allowed to leave the house once per day, and that was to go to the supermarket. That was it for like 3 months or something crazy.
Wow.
So we were doing nothing. We were just hanging around. So I was just making soap every day, and my wife thought I was having some kind of meltdown or breakdown, and she didn't know what was going on.
This is how you cope.
Yeah, exactly. It's like some people were joking about baking bread, and I was just making soap, and that was the thing. And then, it just started to pile up and up and up. And then I discovered the Guinness thing, right? And the way you make soap is basically mix any oil with any alkali will saponify, right? So you could take olive oil from your kitchen and drain cleaner from under your kitchen sink and mix it, and it will saponify and make soap. It won't be nice soap. It might burn you, but it will be soap. So the alkali generally used in soap making is called lye, or sodium hydroxide, and it comes in a salt form. So it's like a powder, a salt, right? So you have to dilute it with distilled water normally. And just in watching YouTube and stuff, I saw people making beer soap. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So it turns out you can replace the water with any liquid, right? You just have to melt or dissolve the sodium hydroxide in it. So I was like, gosh, I wonder, can you make from Guinness? So just for fun, I started making these Guinness soaps. And that was the moment, it wasn't the first Guinness soap I made, but it was maybe the third, maybe the second. I think it might have been even the second soap I made. Where, a couple of days later I was using the shower and I was like, gosh, it's actually really pleasant. It smells great. It feels great. It's got nice texture. It's bubbling up. And it was like, and then that was the moment when the black stuff entered my head. And I just thought, I wonder did Guinness ever trademark? Because Guinness is a huge company, right? Diageo is the parent company. They are very litigious and protect their IP venomously. And they do use the term the black stuff in like their Christmas ad that says from the home of the black stuff, right? So I just thought, I wonder if they ever trademarked it, or is it just a colloquialism here in Ireland? So I ran down to the computer, started Googling, and turns out they've never ever protected it as a term. They've never used it as a term apart from that one ad that they do run every year. So I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go for it. And that's when the idea and the kind of craziness became a reality. When I decided I'm going to start this business and call it the black stuff.
Now, has Guinness ever have they ever approached you about you or?
No, never. And in fact, I was on a podcast a while ago, maybe a year ago, and the guy interviewing me, it was a business podcast, used to be the brand manager for Diageo, like 7 years ago, and he was like, "Yeah, we never. It's not part of their IP suite, and like it's not that they don't recognize that as their." One of their terms. He's like, we probably should have.
It's good. So you should be in the clear then, because it sounds like if they reached out to you, that would not be just for good things. Hopefully.
No. Yeah, no. Right.
I mean, I have the trademarks now, so they can do what they like. But,
yeah.
And so I feel like the soap market, like I don't know when you started if it was like kind of as big as it is now, but was it hard kind of branching into that community and into that realm?
So yeah, I'll tell you a funny story, because it's a little more fragmented now. There's lots of small makers, and well, probably has always been that way, but they were less online and more at the local market, right? And more probably tailored or geared towards women, right? Your typical homemade soap maker was making products for her friends or selling to her neighbors or whatever, and it's only recently that it's kind of become a masculine thing too. So when I started was literally the start of 2021. There weren't really any other soap makers out there other than Dr. Squatch, right? So I was aware of Dr. Squatch, of course. And when I actually started, they had their old school packaging. So I got all my packaging. I got a designer involved. It was like, you see, this is the old school Dr. Squatch. This is who like the main competitors. So we're going to have a pine tar to compete with their pine tar and so on. And they came back to the design. I'm like, I love it. It's great. So I had that manufactured and sent to me, and a month later it arrived, and then Dr. Squatch announced their new rebrand, and it was relatively way more similar than when I started. So that was kind of annoying, but there's nothing I could do. So we're finally changing that, right? 3 years later, nearly 4 years later. But to go back to your question, there weren't that many soap companies around when I started. It was, I guess, less fragmented. And how I got into the community, let's say, is kind of an interesting story. So, like January is when I started tinkering. By February, I decided I was going to make it. March, April, I was designing my packaging and stuff like that, and trying to come up with 6 cents to launch. And I kind of launched, let's say, around June time. And in the EU, it's quite complex to sell soap. You have to have every product cosmetically tested. It's way harder than in the States. The States, it's like regulation free. So I just thought, fuck it, I'll sell in the States. So my launch plan was like not to sell in Ireland, but actually was to sell to Irish Americans in the States. That was the plan, right? So we had a soap made from Guinness. We had a soap made from waterfall water from a local waterfall up in Wicklow. We had a soap called Irish Mountain Rain where we collected rainwater. So it was really leaning into the Irishness and trying to sell to the Irish diaspora, right? That was my plan. And if it went wrong, at least in America, nobody knows me. It's not too embarrassing, right? Yeah. Because I don't know. How good is this? If I'm using it on myself.
You don't have to flee America.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, I found a warehouse partner in the States. I made 100 of each soap and boxed them and packaged them and cured them, did all that stuff, and I shipped them off to the States. And then we launched, and I created some Facebook ads to start, which were, in hindsight, really bad. It was like, pint of Guinness with a soap kind of thing, right? But within a couple of days, a few people bought, right? But then I got this message from this guy, and his name was Zane. I still remember Zane Halbert, and he sent me a message. He said, "Hey, man, I love natural soap. Your products look great. I'm in Dublin next week or tomorrow. I'm traveling to Dublin. Can I meet you and buy from you in person?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that sounds great. Why not?" And my wife kind of went, "Hey, who is this? Who are you going to meet for your soap? What?"
This guy on the internet.
Yeah,
don't worry, honey.
Cool. I'm going to buy him a pint. It's going to be great. So I went into the city centre. He ordered like, so I had 6 products at that point. He ordered like 2 of each, let's say. So it was like, I don't know, $60. And so I went off happy as Larry into town. It was like my 5th order ever, right? I'd ordered other than like friends and that. And so I went off into town to meet this guy who I had no idea who he was. I was going to buy him a pint of Guinness and give him a soap. And yeah, well, he was a lovely guy and fantastic. We had a nice chat. We had a pint of Guinness, and I gave him the soap. And later that evening, he messaged me and he went, "I absolutely love it. I'm in my hotel room. I've been smelling them. I just absolutely love the product. And I'm in this soap group on Facebook. I'm like this soap enthusiast. And I shared a picture in the group, and a whole lot of my friends want me to bring it back for them too. Can you meet me again tomorrow with a whole load more?" And that was, I don't know if you were around at that point, Greg, but that was the craft soap group, the original craft soap.
The OG.
Yeah, which no longer even exists. And there was like 1,500 people in that. So he invited me to join that group afterwards, and I joined. And there wasn't really any other soap. I don't know what feckin' soap they were into at that point. They were all into Dr. Squatch, I guess. But, Sudsy Bear existed because they had launched maybe a couple of months ahead of me. So it was mainly Sudsy Bear and Dr. Squatch, and then I kind of appeared, and then so that's where I got my first 100 sales, was from that group. 100 people bought and shared photos and gave me feedback and left reviews, and really built my confidence. They were all very encouraging and positive about it. I was still very much didn't know what I was doing, so that kind of kickstarted it, and really gave me the confidence to stop trying to sell it as a gimmicky Irish product and just sell it as because they didn't care about the Irishness. None of those people even really knew or cared. Like, it was irrelevant that it was Irish Mountain Rain or Wicklow. They didn't even know how to pronounce it or what it was, right? So they were just buying it because they were into soap. And then the feedback they were giving was like, I actually really like the product. It's enjoyable to use and smells great. So that kind of gave me the confidence to, I suppose, fully go for it. And yeah, I've actually never really leaned on the Irish diaspora since that point. So I never really executed on what my plan was.
I feel like the Eric and I talked about this a few episodes ago. The soap groups are like, they have like the nicest people, and then there's also like a bunch of like toxic individuals. It's such like a hodgepodge, but
it could be real polarizing.
It can, but like the support I feel like that I always see in those groups for individuals is just incredible, and I don't see that, I think, anywhere else as I do in all of the various 100 different soap groups that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And Greg, the soap enthusiast. Yeah.
If you go into any new brand that's up and coming, it's great. Like, back when I was joining this, there were no other soap groups. It was the only soap group basically on Facebook. There was a Dr. Squatch one, right? And there was this. And then, 6 to 8 months later, somebody created a group for me for the black stuff, and somebody else then later created one for Sudsy, or maybe they created the one for Sudsy first, I don't know. And like, people went off and joined both those groups. But ever since then, anytime there's a new brand appears, like, somebody goes and creates them a fan group on Facebook, and like straight away they've got 100 people join, which is like, who are the 100 people who are in every soap group. But not only do they join every group, they also support them and buy them and try their products, which is great for new people who are trying to launch brands. Because it's hard to get sales on the internet. So they are very supportive. And yes, there's a few, look, tensions run high. People have their favorites, and like, there's always a bit of drama, but that's the internet, right?
Well, and I know I saw when you were running your like 100, was it the 100K sale, and people were like, they were bitching because they like, hey, I ordered this bar, but it's not shipping. I can't get it. And I guess it was based off of like where they were located and the distribution center. But I know like some people were like super like upset that they couldn't get Deck the Balls or, RTC or whatever. But I'll tell you, when I first discovered the black stuff, I think, so I got into the whole like natural soap thing a few years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And it was actually on a subreddit, and someone was going through and they were kind of like scoring like Dr. Squatch and Sudsy, and the black stuff was on there. And I was like, what the fuck is, like, I didn't know who any or what any of these brands were. But one of the things that drew me in, I have them here, just the boxes. So I know this is a newer one, but like the artwork, and I know your artwork has changed, which also looks great, but the artwork was kind of what drew me in. So have you like, and there's like a sticker in each box, and little things like that is just cool. But have you noticed like that was kind of also like, besides them smelling good, like just the like people just jumped in because the art was like, these Frankenstein boxes are fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's the challenge now, because we're rebranding away. Well, we're just away from this logo. We're modernizing or making it a bit more sophisticated. So that's our challenge, is to try and maintain that. I think we've achieved that with Artist Choice, which is coming, which is quite cool. And the challenge is going to be like, how do we translate those kind of classic bars and boxes into the more modern feeling one and the more modern brand? So that's a challenge ahead of us. But yeah, I do think that made a difference with me, because I guess, see, I was kind of forced into it, right? If I was living in the States and just making soap, I could just put it in a box and ship it to anyone, right? Like a lot of the newer brands do, put a sticker on it and send it out. It doesn't look great, but at least we're out the door. And like, I'm a big fan of better done than perfect. But because I was in Ireland and using a third party warehouse, I had to have everything barcoded, right? So then at that point, early on, I realized, shit, I'm going to have to print individual boxes for every product. And even Dr. Squatch didn't do that at that point. Like they just had a little ribbon that went around. I'm like, what am I setting myself up for here? Like these soaps sell for like $7. I'm going to have a box specific to that one soap. You know, if I change it or, you know, it doesn't sell, I'm stuck with all this packaging. But I decided to go for it. So, and then when I decided to go for it, I decided, well, I may as well do it as best I can. And I hired a designer, and you know, we designed our packaging and with the barcoding. And then when it came to the limited edition time, I decided, like, let's try and come up with some cool art. I thought that might be interesting. So, you know, Irishness means a lot of different things to different people, but to a lot of people, like storytelling and art and culture and music are central to Irishness. And so trying to bring that in a little bit into the brand. And yeah, I think I did achieve that. And little things like the sticker and, you know, that type of stuff. At one point, every bar soap had a sticker in it.
Yeah, like the stickers are, I mean, there's just like, I haven't used any of these, this box just came not that long ago, but something I didn't notice was the actual, like, the barcode on the back. And and I guess I've never looked at a box like that in depth, but I feel like that does have to be challenging. And then especially, keeping up with, I mean, competitors and their cost. Because I feel
like when, sorry to cut across.
No, you're good.
Little things like when you're first starting out, like just to get a barcode costs $30, right? So it's like, you're on and you're trying to keep costs down, and it's like, I've got like $6. That's like $180 just for the barcodes, right? Never mind printing boxes. So like things like that. Yeah, it is challenging. But, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed like when the cost of, I mean, what's like an average bar of soap costs now? It's like $8 to $10. I feel like it's kind of like where. Or if you do the Squatch subscription, they're like $3 or whatever, but you get what you pay for. But I feel like too, like I see people, like a bar of soap. John, how long does that typically last? A couple weeks if you don't let it just kind of marinate under the water?
Yeah, if you kind of, I hear all sorts of numbers, right? Because I'm always trying to figure out like how long does it. The tests that I've done have usually been about 21 showers. So for an average person, that's 3 weeks. A lot of people shower morning and night, right? So all of a sudden that's like a week and a half, or 2 weeks. But then other people say like, oh, it's lasted me for like 2 months, and I'm thinking like, either you don't wash very often, or like, are you just using it to wash your hands, or do you just like rub a little bit on your hand and then you're and then that works. I don't know, but like for some people it lasts a long time. Other people, not as much. I tend to just, obviously I've got soap coming out of my ears, so I don't worry too much about it. But like for me, about 21 days from a bar soap. Yeah.
It's interesting that when you talk to somebody who is like strictly body wash, and you can get a bottle of body wash for like $5, And anyone who you talk to and you say, hey, well, this bar of soap is say $8.50 or whatever. They're like, well, I can get 2 things of body wash and that'll last me, 2 years or whatever. Not 2 years, but I feel like when you really think about it, 21 days for $8, when you really like cost that out, it's not that expensive for a bar of soap. Like when you think about how long you're using it for, but I feel like it's hard to convince the body washers to migrate over. So I feel like that has to be challenging as well, because like I know some people who use the 10-in-1s. It's like, well, I wash my hair, my pits, my ass, like everything with this, and like I notice it too with like my parents, and I was like, hey, I'm into bars of soap, and they're like, well, that's a waste of money. It's like, but you don't understand. And I think even like Eric, when I first kind of,
I shamed you for it a little bit.
He did.
I was like, Greg, what's your monthly budget on soap? And it was for that first month or two, and you were like, oh yeah, I got a new shipment coming in. I bought 8 bars, and I'm like doing the math in my head, and I'm like, dude, you're like $300 a month on soap, and then I don't know how that works.
Because most soap makers, I feel like the sites, it's always you have to spend $1 limit to get free shipping. So I want to get that free shipping.
But it's also a little bit addictive, and like
yes,
you want to know what it smells like, right? And you want to know what they all smell like, because they all smell different. So you're like, if it still happens to me, I was on somebody's website yesterday who I had never bought from before, and I'm like, I want them all. I just find them all, and it's not that I just want to smell them. Most of the stuff I buy, I don't even use, obviously, but I buy from everyone. I'm just going to try and turn my screen here, so I have so much.
Yeah.
You can see my over here. So you can see over there, that's all other people's products.
Wow.
And there's more up here. I buy everything from everyone, right? And that's like beard oils, like wet shaving gear,
everything,
colognes. I buy it a lot. And the beauty of having a business is the black stuff buys everything, right? Yeah. So
this is business expense.
Yeah. So it is a bit addictive, and I'm into it. And I never thought it would be. And like, I love smelling all the different things. And I'm not buying it because I want to copy it. I just want to see what it smells like. And like, when I do get into other products, like a shaving soap or something, I like the way I've developed my soap and my deodorant and now the cologne has been by just making products that I personally like. And I just figured, if I'm not wet shaving for months, and I've been doing this for like 6 months, I'm hoping to launch it next year. Like, if I'm not wet shaving for a year with products, how am I going to know what's good or what's not good, right? And like the same, if I ever go to release a beard oil, you'll see me growing a beard, right? Because how else am I going to know what it feels like? You just have to do it. So yeah, you learn by doing.
Well, and I noticed too, like I see like a lot of companies, they kind of, hey, here's my recipe, and then it just kind of gets like outsourced out. And I noticed that is a big topic of a big point of interest in the community versus if someone not making it like on site or in house, if it's not as good. Do you think that where the product is made is important and relevant to the like overall quality from the different the different companies you've tried?
So I don't, right? And I said at the start, I never planned on making it myself. Like, I planned to find a manufacturer and build a brand around it. How on earth am I going to make soap? Never mind build a big company, right? So the vast majority of people throughout history who sell products do not make the products themselves, right? So while you can look down with snobbery at someone who isn't doing it, it doesn't really make a difference. The one thing I do stand over is integrity and honesty, right? And like, it's one of the core pillars of, well, it's me personally, but the black stuff now, right, is that like, we always try and be as honest as we possibly can and act decently towards our customers. And, if there's a problem, we try and think, if it was a friend of mine, what would I do? And that's kind of how we approach it. And like, I share all our revenue figures on my Twitter account. We've been open and transparent since the get-go. We've been recording, like, I've been recording me making soap here in the house when I started, and I just kept that the whole way. And so when someone outsources but then claims that they don't, that peeves me a little, I guess. Same way if they're like, and a lot of people do this one, where they go, the ingredients are like essential oils, but it's like, I don't know, coffee flavored, coffee scented soap, or, whatever. Whiskey scented soap, which you cannot make from essential oils. It just makes me think, like, they're not telling the truth, right? But like, each to their own. I try and stay in my lane, I suppose. There was a period of time where maybe I was getting drawn into silliness and Facebook groups, and I just decided at some point, like, just focus on your own stuff and don't worry about it. I think we're all better for it. But if everyone was a bit more honest, not just in soap, but in every business, it'd be better for everyone.
It is interesting, though. I mean, you say you buy an Xbox, right? Like, it wasn't made in some dude's garage, but for whatever reason, like, soap has to be made in your house or it's not.
It's not homemade.
Yeah,
or
right.
Craft batched or something.
And I can't remember who said it, but I really liked it. And I think he said, the soap is still made with my recipe, or it's still homemade. It's just not made in the owner's home. And I feel like you can't really fault people for scaling a business if you're one, yes, being transparent. And I feel like that's a lot of things. Like, some companies are just straight not, like, they're just super kind of sketchy. And that to me is weird. Like, I know some companies use, what is it, Adams Wholesale, and And if you're gonna do that, that's cool. But I think like make it known, because some people don't give a shit, but then some people are like super wet for like it has to be like small batch made in your home. But something that is also I feel like really cool with. I mean, with the black stuff, but I feel like the soap community as a whole is. I noticed that a lot of the owners and they're active. They are like, if something shits the bed, like my guitar breaks, like I can't reach out to Fender, like the owner, but like if I get a package and something's missing or destroyed, like you're on Facebook, I always see you commenting. So
Yeah.
is that something like you enjoy doing, and you actually like getting to be kind of in it with everybody?
Yeah, it's also to our detriment, right? So like I get messages all the time, like non-stop. Like people message me with random customer service issues. There's no problem. Like, and I still, but I don't deal with it anymore. Like I'm just like, yeah, great, screenshot, send it on. Um, so it is good and it's bad, but at some point you get to a certain level where it's just not possible to give the same level of attention to somebody that you used to as the business grows. Like we've had 100,000 orders. We'll do maybe 4.5 million turnover this year. Like we're shooting for maybe 8 next year. Like we're growing really, really fast. Like there's a lot of people coming through the door. At one point, I knew every single customer by name. I would recognize when they bought twice or 3 times, and I'd be able to. I wrote them handwritten notes. I did all that, and like I messaged them myself, and that was great and important to grow a business at the start. But I do think at some point you have to try and remove yourself a little bit out of the equation. I'm trying not to do that. And that's why the Facebook group is great. I try and interact with people in there all the time in my spare time. I actually enjoy it. I have a great sense of pride in our business and our products. And so when people comment or have questions, I can either be defensive or I can be thankful, depending on the approach. And that's just because I came up with every single cent. Like you have to realize a lot of the subcontractors will actually do not only will they do the manufacturing for you, but they'll also do the product development for you. So you just say, I want an apple scented soap, and they'll send you 5 different versions of an apple scented soap, and then you go, okay, I'll pick that one. And money just creates you product, right? Unfortunately, I can't grow through money because I have to actually buy the raw materials and train the staff and increase our capacity of our warehouse and double the size of our cure room and all this type of stuff. But to go back to your previous point about, you know, uh, it being handmade and so on and versus outsourced, like even me, so like the first 18 months of this business, I made every single product, right? Every single bar of soap I personally touched and cut with my own 2 hands and put it into a box myself and did everything. Then after 18 months, I moved out of the house. I rented a place up the road and I hired a friend of mine to help. And at that point, he was doing the wash up and he was doing the prep and he was doing the post and packaging for me because we had started selling in Ireland as well. But I was still making every single soap. So I would leave here, it's 10 minutes up the road with my motorbike. I'd go in, he'd have everything ready to make soap. I'd make soap for 2 hours, make like 300 bars of soap, and I'd be like, good luck, see you tomorrow, Davey. I got to run and do all the rest of the shit. And that lasted for another 6 months like that. And then my first hire after him was a lady called Vicky, who's still with us, who was our first soap maker. And then for like the first, but she obviously, like, you can't just hire a soap maker. Like most people don't know how to make soap. So she was working in kitchens. She actually worked for Amazon in their catering department. So she was kitchen staff. So I just trained her how to make it, and so worked closely with her for like a month, and then finally she was getting good enough, and now we hired recently somebody who's been a head chef for 20 years, like with a lot of experience of running kitchens. So I view it as like a restaurant where we hire commie chefs to do the preparation and make deodorants and wash up and kitchen porters, and then we hire chefs to make the products. So we're kind of viewing it like a kitchen operation. So that was like the first 2 years I made every single product, but now in the last 18 months I have made almost zero products, which is great for the business and great for me, but like they're all still my creations initially. And the challenge is now when we release a new product, like Deck the Balls, for example. Deck the Balls, I came up with the scent and worked on that here, like this. And then we had to make it into a soap. Exactly, yeah. We had to make it into a soap, and we played around with all the different additives, and it took ages to get it right because of the levels of honey in it. And we tried with menthol and seaweed and with the usual different things. But I didn't make any of those soaps for the first time in this business, other than coming up with the scent profile and the essential oil mix. So in a way, it's not that dissimilar to somebody going to Adams, except I have my own team. You know what I mean? And I think as a business grows, if it's going to grow, it's inevitable that it goes that route, in one route or the other, right? Because you could have $1 million a year handmade business just by yourself, right? And like your hat, Tim from Valhalla, is definitely on that trajectory, right? But at some point, he's going to get capped out. Like that's all you can actually make. One person can only make about $1 million worth of product in a year, and that's neglecting all the rest of the stuff that's involved in the business. So realistically, the cap is probably somewhere around $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 turnover a year if you're just doing it yourself. I think.
Well, and I feel like too, it starts to take a toll on your personal life too. I mean, you can only as one person do and be expected to do so much. At some point you have to kind of not hand over your baby, but like, hey, here are the reins. Somebody else can kind of, and I will obviously be here, but I can't do it all. And so to touch on so you are in a warehouse now, correct? So I can't remember, is it new or did you just move into your new spot or?
We moved, so went from my home to the place up the road, which was like a shed. Is the best way to describe it. And we were there for a year, and like we grew a lot in that space. It was not a lot of space, 65 square meters. I don't know what that is in feet, but like not much, 650, I think, something like that. It wasn't a lot of space. And then from there, I rented another place a bit further out. I'm in Dublin, so the further you go away from where people live, the cheaper property is to rent. So we're moving a little bit further away, but all my employees live in this area because I want to be close to home. So we didn't go too far, so we're still paying a premium on rent. But we rented a pretty decent-sized workshop a year ago, roughly, and probably a little bit more than a year ago now, last summer. And now, just recently, we didn't quite double our space, but there was one of our neighbors 3 doors up, same building, had space that he wasn't using, and I did a deal with him to take basically his ground floor. So we've kind of doubled our space as well there. So yeah.
Now, if somebody wanted to like have a tour of your space, is that something that
Yeah. We have it open to the public. So we have a little very basic shop. We take cash and online payments for it, but you can come in and we're open like every single day, Monday to Friday, because we're actively making products, and somebody will sell you. And if there's time, they'll show you around as well. No problem. I'm not always there. I've gone from being there every day to being there like every second day, and now even a little bit less because
that's nice to be able to do.
Yeah. So just focus on, as a business grows, you got to focus on other stuff, and it's really hard, as you were saying, Greg, to hand over things. So there've been some key moments in the business. So there was that key moment where I went from just me doing like the wash up, right, to having somebody doing the wash up for you, right, first of all, and the prep, right. So that took a huge weight off my shoulder. It freed up like 4 hours a day for me, which is fantastic. And then the post and packaging as well, save time. And then we went to teaching somebody else to make soap, and that freed up even more time for me, right? But then the business was growing, so there was more logistical challenges. And bear in mind, we're an island here in Ireland, so we've got a warehouse in the UK, we've got a warehouse in Dublin as well, a separate one to our workshop. We've got a warehouse in Canada, actually. We've got a warehouse in the US. So there's a lot of logistics going on. There's all the raw materials that need to be bought, all that type of stuff. So then I hired somebody to kind of look after my operations and logistics and taught her how to do it. And that just was like that moment where, gosh, I wasn't spending half my day trying to remember what I was supposed to not forget. You know what I mean? Like, don't forget you need to order olive oil, and it's in your head, like a weight on your shoulders. Or like, don't forget you need to, get more lye, or don't forget you have to reply to that customer. So I've slowly been building a team. There's now 11 of us, which is, and 2 part-times. There's actually 13 of us. So I've got 2 full-time soap makers. We've got another full-time deodorant maker / prep. We've got a full-time kitchen porter who does kind of wash up and prep. Then we've got, let's say, 3 warehouse operatives who are doing all the packaging and the cutting and all that type of stuff. We've got a logistics and operations person. We've got myself, and then we've got recently just hired a marketing type person as well to help. But then we also outsource use some agencies, right? So I recently leaned into a creative agency trying to make some ads first. You might have seen some more Dr. Squatch-esque ads recently that I haven't really liked. So we're working with them to try and help them find our tone of voice and what we actually like. And then we use an agency for SEO recently that we just hired. We hired a design and a branding agency last year who's been doing all our packaging. So it's a small business, but actually if you totted it up, the amount of people involved in the business is actually growing very rapidly. The amount of people who I'm in touch with has grown significantly.
That's got to feel crazy that you went from, just maybe, 3 or 4 years ago, making soap in your home. And now, whoops, I created a successful business and look at all these people that are dependent on me. That's got to feel insane.
Yeah. And the best benchmark I see or equate to is at some point, I was buying bags like this with olive oil. In fact, you can see here, right here, that's a liter of palm oil right there, right? That I just have if I wanted to make something here in the house. That's how it started, and then at some point I bought 5 kilos of it, and then at some point 25 kilos. And I remember the first time I bought 25 kilos of castor oil, it arrived in this kind of plastic drum, and I couldn't even open it. I was like, what do I do? How do I get it? How do I open it? And then I had to Google how to open it, to go to the Woodies, we call it, the homeware store, and buy something to try and open it. And then when I got it open, it's so viscous, it wouldn't pour. It needed a pump. So, but I wasn't going to buy a pump at that point. So I'm trying to pour castor oil, and it was a mess. So and then we started. We used them for a long time, and then recently we started buying 200 kilo oil drums of castor oil and a proper pump, and then literally this week 1,000 kilos of olive oil arrived, and so it's just grown like that. So the raw materials is a great indicator, and the money and the bills that you're paying every month is a great indicator of success. My operations person this week ordered €14,000 worth of coconut and palm oil and €7,000 worth of olive oil without me telling me, right? It's just she's just well, I have to, right?
Yeah, right.
This is how the business goes.
Yeah, those are just business cost.
I was looking at the account spreadsheet, the things that I need to pay, and I'm like, what? €14,000? What's that? I'm looking. But then you just remember, that's just kind of, as the business grows, the numbers get bigger, and hopefully you can stay ahead of them.
Now, something like that large of a purchase, is that a month's worth? How fast do you burn through that?
So we try and keep. So the big challenge of manufacturing your own product is staying in stock, right? So I'm really proud. We have actually never been out of stock of any of our product. I think we had one maybe for a few weeks where it was something happened, right? But we're hardly ever out of stock. But the biggest thing that weighs on us is the raw materials aren't always accessible. So you could be buying olive oil, and this is how we have 1,000 liters of olive oil, right? We've been buying olive oil for 2 years from this restaurant supply company, and they made me sign a contract at one point. They were delivering 450 liters of olive oil every week, and that was fine. But then we started to have too much stock, so I paused them for a few weeks to burn down our stock a little. And then we went back to them, we're like, we need more olive oil. And they're like, oh, we have none. I was like, what? They're like, well, it's all gone. We didn't know if you were coming back. So it's like, oh shit.
So you just stopped buying it. Jeez.
Cool.
Yeah, and that happens all the time. You'd be buying coconut oil from a vendor, and then one week you go to buy 600 kilos, what we normally would buy, and they're like, oh, it's out of stock. So it gets to a point where you have to safeguard against that, you have to overbuy raw materials ahead of time and keep a stockpile. So what we would typically do is try and keep like 3 months worth of manufacturing in reserve, and when it dips below the 3 months, we buy more, right? And it depends on, some oils will have more or less time, right? Some that go out of stock more frequently, we might hold more depending on the price. So just recently I had a conversation with my operations person. The business is growing, we're looking to double how much we're manufacturing in the next 6 months. So she's getting worried because like that's her job, right? She's like, well, what if we run out? So I'm like, okay, buy more, change the threshold. So we've changed it to like whatever we had, it's now 4 months worth of supply. So hence the big order. She was like, we need to have it was like 3,500 kilos of coconut oil, right? Is what she was ordering, and we already have like 1,000, like a ton in stock. So yeah, it's our business is quite big now, and there are bigger challenges associated with that.
Well, and I feel like it's got to be hard too, because what is the like the curing? Like, how long does a soap
Yeah,
or does soap
that
have to
is
cure
one of-
for?
that is the biggest challenge, and that's why Dr. Squatch don't cure their product, right? Because you don't have to. Like, if I made this soap as a tester today, I could use it tomorrow in the shower. I'll still get to experience it. It'll still work fine. It'll just wear down a bit quicker, right? And it may not bubble up as well, right? So if you see some of their videos, the few videos they've shown of their manufacturing or their partners manufacturing, whatever it is, you can usually see them going straight from cut into box, right? They just cut it and they box it. And that's why when you open their box, often there's bits of soap stuck to the side inside it because it's gone in kind of uncured. And there's a misconception in the community that curing means the soap going hard. But the hardness of the soap purely just depends on your recipe. So like my soaps are like, they're rock hard the day you make them, right? Because we use a lot of hard oils. We've got tons of shea butter in there, which is very solid at room temperature. So different recipes will be different softnesses, let's say. But so curing isn't about it going hard. Curing is about letting that water that you use for the lye to evaporate. So water kills soap, but you need it to make soap, right? So you need water to dilute the lye, but water also kills soap. It's like the Superman thing. It's the kryptonite of soap is water, right? Water destroys soap. So curing gives time for that soap or for the water in the soap to evaporate, and then when there's less water in the soap, it'll just perform better and last longer. So the challenge with curing is, because you're keeping like soap in a cure room for 3 to 4 weeks, and ideally 4 weeks, it's a little bit exponential in terms of how much space you need for curing. So if at the moment we don't quite make 10,000, let's say, argument's sake, I think we make 8,000 bars of soap a week, but for arguments, let's say we're making 10,000 bars of soap a week. Our cure room should be holding 40,000 bars of soap if they're all in there for 4 weeks, and then move it out. Like, that's actually quite a lot of space. And if you were to double we could easily double our manufacturing. Well, I say easily, like in terms of our space and our people, by being more efficient and hiring another body and so on, train them in. But our big challenge is like, where are we going to put 80,000 parts of soap? So that's part of the challenge of growing and curing is, and like we have a big cure room. It holds about 20, 30,000 bars of soap at any given moment. And then we've just got some more space where we can move things there as well. But yeah, curing is really a challenge going forward as we grow. But it's something I'm committed to, or at least trying to.
I feel like it's got to be hard too, because you roll out what, 4 or 5 limited editions also each year. So you're doing your main line, and then you have, is it every couple months or every 3 months you have a limited edition coming out?
Yeah, it's even more frequent than that now. Like,
Yeah.
The limited editions are brilliant, and that's one thing I took from Dr. Squatch, right? That's their thing. But that's actually, when you think about it from a business perspective, it's a brilliant strategy, right? And let me just explain that. First of all, from a manufacturing point of view, we've kept our product line fairly tight. We don't have 40 different scents like some other people do. We've got like 10, and now we've gone to 11. I started with 6, and then it hasn't moved that much, right? So because I was like, I don't want 20 soaps to make. I can only make one soap a day. I can only make like 20 different soaps in a month, like without burning out. So we kept it tight. And that makes sense from a manufacturing point of view. And then the limited editions you just make once. Like, you're making for like 2 to 3 days. Like Arthur's Choice we made that in 2 days today. So it's 2 days of our manufacturing. That's the Arthur's Choice done, dusted. So from a manufacturing perspective, it's great because you get a whole new product, but it doesn't interfere with, like, you don't have to worry about it going out of stock. In fact, you want it to go out of stock, and you're only making it at certain time periods of the year. And then from a business perspective, the beauty of the limited edition model is that it creates moments in the year where your customers come back to buy it, right? So we have Arthur's Choice coming out now in September, start of September. A lot of our existing customers will come back to buy Arthur's Choice, but about 50% of the sales come from other products, not just Arthur's Choice. They'll also go, oh, well, I'll just top up in the other two things, or they'll want to get to the free shipping threshold or whatever. So it creates these full price sales moments because it's not a discount, and typical businesses run a sale to create moments in the year where they're going to sell, like Black Friday sale. So it creates these moments in the year where people come back and top up. And so we've got one in September, we've got like some in October, we've got November, we've got January, we've got March, and we've now got June. So they're kind of spread out throughout the year for a reason. And that's both from manufacturing, but also from a business perspective. They're really good.
John, that reminds me of, I think, Taco Bell's plan, where they've got their core menu. You can always get, a Mexican pizza, a bean burrito, a quesadilla, but limited time. Greg, what is it now? Cantina Street tacos or something?
Yep, the street tacos, and we flock there because we want.
Yeah, if I don't get there and try it, it's going to be gone, and I won't be able to get it again.
Well, and John, with your limited editions, I feel like if you don't get there fast enough, they are gone. And it's always like I have to set it, especially when Relax the Cax. I got it. I think I had to buy it from someone else, and he scalped the shit out of me. But I really fucking wanted it, and it was like after the release, and so now I have to set reminders on my calendar to make sure I'm on there the day it drops so I can fucking get it. But then I will also buy stuff, and that'll be like my order for. So yeah, that makes total sense. I'll buy that and others.
And there's ways you can do that, from a business perspective. We try not to screw people too much, right? You want the limited edition stuff because it allows you to create a whole different product, and often we use it to test new products too, right? Like our cologne was limited edition. But you want to be able to manufacture, you want to be able to sell a product for a limited period of time. But there's a fine line between it's available for a day and it's gone, and then I'll bring it back in 2 weeks when I make more, and then we sell it again, it's gone, and using a fake sense of scarcity. So there's a fine line between that and what I try and do is make enough. We try and judge it. We try and make enough for a month, but it doesn't always work like that. But sometimes it works more. Like Sligo, we had for most of the summer available, which was great. But Deck the Balls last year lasted 2 days, and it was just gone. And and that's why the 100K order release, people were able to get. You talked about it, people were able to get maybe limited editions because we made them all available. But part of our big challenge is that the way Shopify, which is our e-commerce software, works is if it's in stock in Dublin, you in the USA or Canada will be able to add it to cart, but it doesn't, because it doesn't know where you are. But when you put in your address, it goes, oh, it's not available in Canada, it's not available in the USA, sorry, we're going to remove it. And that's a very frustrating experience for a customer. So what we tend to do is when it goes out of stock in one place, we just mark it out of stock everywhere. So we're playing this game in the background, trying to balance our stock correctly. You never know how it's going to sell. A little bit of an idea, but sometimes it just goes better in the UK, and in fact, most of this last year has been the UK just annihilate us. We've underestimated how much they're going to buy, and it's gone out of stock there, but it's still available everywhere else, and I just have to mark it out of stock. So we end up with excess older limited edition stuff all around the world. So this was a good opportunity to try and clear some of that out. And what we also do at Black Friday is we tend to give it away for free because as an incentive, when you spend 35, you get a free random product. And so that's how we, I suppose, use up our excess limited edition stuff, which is quite good.
And two, I mean, it's crazy. I ordered, and then it in USA, Tennessee, right? That's where you're.
Yeah.
And it came in a day. or like the next day. It was the fastest. Like I ordered it, and then normally like I notice a lot of people will like mark it as shipped, and then it'll just kind of stay there in that purgatory for like a week. But it legitimately like moved that same day, and I got it. I think no shit, like 2 days later, it was at my door, which was good because I wanted it for this interview to show off. But it legitimately came super fast. So
So when I
kudos.
first started, thanks. When I first started in the US, I found the kind of, if you search for like fulfillment partner USA, right? There's like the big guys in the ads. Like I clicked on one of them. They looked like they had a fancy website, and that's who I signed up with initially. It was a company called Ship Hero, right? And they were good for the first couple of months, and then they raised $100 million, something ridiculous, and bought like warehouses all over America. And they decided they were going to become the Amazon of 3PLs, and they were going to. Anyway, but at some point they distributed our inventory all around the States without asking permission or telling us. So we went from, and I didn't have much stock, so we went from having like 100 bars of each that would ship next day to wherever, and their algorithm split them up and sent them, like, we at one point, like Las Vegas warehouse had like Atlantic Pine Tar and nothing else, and like, so nothing would fulfill because we didn't have enough inventory for any order in any location. And that entire experience, this is in 2022, nearly killed my business. Like, it was such a nightmare. Nothing was shipping. The customer service from them was horrendous, and it was legitimately 3 months of nightmare, and it was a disaster. And that led me to really find a good partner. So I spent ages trying to find a really good partner and a smaller company that we could deal with. Like, I know the CEO, I can send him a message. Like, they're doing great, they're grown, but they're not like that. And they're a super partner of ours in Tennessee, and yeah, we're delighted with them. So way better.
Yeah, I mean, it came fast. It was packaged nicely. I mean, even compared to like a Dr. Squatch order that I got, it took like 2.5 weeks to ship out, and it was literally just thrown in a bubble mailer. And I guess because like if it was fucked up, I could just reach out and they'll say, "Well, here's your money back," or "When we'll just send you new ones, whatever. Go on with your day."
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of that, but yeah, I mean, it came super quickly, and like that to me was impressive. But also, you sell on Amazon too, correct? So is that like when people are buying the black stuff, is it more beneficial to you? Like, would you rather them just go to your website, or does it really matter where they're purchasing it from?
Yeah, we make zero money on Amazon. Like, nothing. We sell, in the last 30 days, we sold like $15,000 worth of product on Amazon, and Amazon sent me $2,000. Like, the rest of that money is fees and ads, placement bills, and bear in mind, I had to make up that product and ship it to the States. Like, we make zero on Amazon. And it really makes me think, like, why are we on Amazon? But at some point, there's that economy of scale where it will hopefully make sense. It's kind of a long play for us. We kind of lose money right now, or break even ideally. But there is different customers, who are on Amazon, and ideally there will be some kind of movement from Amazon to our main website for like limited editions and stuff like that. So it's it hasn't paid off yet, but it's kind of a long-term play. I'm hoping Amazon becomes a decent channel for us. And one thing we've done is we tried to create bigger bundles. So the problem with selling one soap on Amazon is you make nothing because Amazon take everything. But if you sold 3 soaps in a pack for like $25 or whatever, at least now you've got a little bit of margin to get back. So we're trying to move towards bigger bundles. It's a long-term challenge. Yeah.
Well, and something I noticed too, like, and I don't know if this was even something that you like agreed to, or if this maybe you did, was on Prime Day, your soap was also marked down. So is that something they ask you about, or do they just the black stuff is taking part of Prime Day?
Yeah, the first Prime Day, I did not realize that they just marked us down, and like we sell loads, but I didn't make any money because they mark it down by 20%, but they don't change their fees. Like, their fees are like 40 to 60%. Like, so it just eats up your profit. Amazon, like, honestly, like, selling $7 to $10 products on the internet is very hard to make money on Amazon. Really hard. So if anyone's out there listening and they're thinking of starting a business, like, bundle it in a way so it's $30, And then you at least like, yeah, Amazon are still going to take loads of it, but at least there's money left there for a little bit of profit on your cost of goods and stuff like that. So yeah, we're trying to move away. We're still going to keep them there as individual units. We're trying to focus more on bundles. So like we just launched our deodorants today, I think. Maybe they aren't launched yet, but we're launching our deodorants on Amazon, but not as one deodorant. They're in packs, mixed packs of 2. So you can get like Atlantic Pine and Black Stout, or you can get, I can't even remember what the other 3 are. We've got 3 different bundles. So, and they're like $26 or something, because I'm just sick of giving Amazon all my money.
Well, and I feel like too, like so Amazon, sometimes I'll go in and I'll see the black stuff pop up and it's like, get it today by 5 p.m. But if I ordered it from your website, I would still get it in like 2 days anyway, half the time. So, I mean, unless I feel like you need it for some odd reason, right then and there, I feel like most people can probably wait a couple days.
I think we can plan our soap usage out.
Yeah.
Better than this evening.
Yeah, right. I think most people, I'm going to say 99% of people will be all right.
Not a soap emergency.
Yeah, right.
Teenager is home from college. I need soap today.
All of it.
That's more reasonable. There's a
well,
story.
then, you know what? I'm going to go to the store and you can just use Dove for the day. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
John, though, let me ask. So what is, and this is always kind of like a tough question, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but what is your why? Like, what keeps you inspired to continue growing and evolving the black stuff?
Yeah.
Or yourself as a person?
No, that's a good question. So I'll tackle the second part first, me as a person, right? So I've been entrepreneurial, involved in all sorts of different businesses for a long time. And I spent a number of years helping other people grow fantastic businesses through e-commerce. And like some of them, like tens of millions of turnover a year from zero. And, some of them, a friend of mine bought a house in like 12 months, but I did most of the work and like he got all the reward. So I've done it for other people. So the why now for me, from a personal reason, is like, it's my time, right? But from a more macro reason, it's it's not really about today. So I've had success in the past, right? And I've sold a business before, and I've been lucky enough to be able to pay off this house, so I don't have a mortgage, and like I was able to put some money into the black stuff, which has helped us grow, and that's why we are where we are, where we are. But the goal isn't, I'm not trying to build something to sell. So I still own 100% of the business. It's all self-funded. It's profitable. It can be more profitable if I want it to be by slowing down growth. At the moment, we reinvest everything into growth and, our advertising and so on. But like the goal isn't to build something and flip it and sell it for 5, 10 million or whatever, some 20 million, like 100 million. That's not my goal here. My goal is actually to build a generational type business. And I know that sounds a little bit stupid and like egotistical, but like, somebody started Nike, somebody started Lululemon, somebody started, Coca-Cola, and all those businesses were started, most of them by individuals at some point, right? And I don't know if the black stuff will ever achieve that, right? But that's my dream, is to build something really generational where like my kids' kids can say, oh yeah, my grandfather started this business, and like that's why, I don't know, I'm fucked up.
It's your legacy. That's you will hope that the idea is that you're remembered for this.
Yeah, but that's actually my why. That's actually what I'm trying to achieve with this. It's not about short term. Like I'm actually in this for like, I've got like a 20-year plan here. Like when I'm projecting, I'm looking at like 10 years time. I'm not even looking at like we stay profitable, right? And that's the most important thing, stay alive. But when you can look at things at a much longer time scale, all of a sudden your perspective shifts, and it's not as important whether. And that's probably why we're so slow to do things. Like people from the outside probably look at the black stuff and go, "Those guys, they don't do anything. I don't know what's going on there. They don't seem to release new products at all." Like, it takes us a long time to do things because I'm trying to do it right, and I'm trying to do it in a sustainable manner, and we want to continue manufacturing it all ourselves, and I want to grow this handmade manufacturing business the right way, and still use the same. Like in 5 years from now, I actually still want them to be making soaps 54 at a time. I think it's achievable rather than going to big vats and stuff like that. Just to try and stay authentic and handmade. I think it's kind of important to me. Time will tell whether we achieve it or not.
No, that's great, man. That's it's impressive. It really is. And so before we go, if someone wanted to buy your product, what is your website where they can find besides Amazon?
Yeah, theblackstuff.com. When I started out, it was the blkstuff.com for $10, and then at some point I was able to spend the $3,000 to buy the blackstuff.com, and maybe at some point in the future I might buy black.com. I don't know, but that one's expensive. But it's the blackstuff.com for now. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, John. John Larkin of the Black Stuff. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, we really appreciate it. Awesome products, man.
My pleasure.